Everybody, welcome to Snow Talk. Brian Good here on this Tuesday evening. Kevin, by the way, is back tomorrow, so I'll try to get the blog out back to where it was before, being published more in the early afternoon hours, so heads up there. All right, our snow update, snowfall date for the season now 2.6, thanks to today's snow. Normal to date 4.1, so we smashed it in half in the past couple of days here, and last year to this day 3.7. So we're catching up. Our next time we'll see that number change. Last year to date will be the 23rd of January. That's when we picked up an inch of snow, and that began a snow train that lasted all the way through February and March. On the board tonight, just two systems I'm going to list for right now, and I'll explain why that is in a moment. This weekend is listed there, those dates, and then following that into next week. All right, so let's talk about the setup. First off, both coasts are busy tonight. We've got our system that came through here last night and this morning, now exiting the northeast. And we've got a new system already beginning to develop. And the way that this is set up, the ridge across the Rockies, the systems are splitting. Pieces of energy going this way, riding the jet stream, and another piece slides underneath and travels just south of I-10. It's a split flow. So they get to California as one piece, and then they split into two separate pieces to the south. The dominant jet stream, the polar jet, the one that controls the cold weather, is the one I've got drawn, is taking a dip over us at the moment. And that has the pieces of energy that are diving down. And what we've seen as of late is these systems either try to phase or they try to stay as two separate items as they round the base in the southeast corner of the country. And the models are struggling on the phasing ability. The weekend system is trying to phase, but more so once it passes I-65 it phases. Otherwise, it's two separate entities that we are dealing with there. All right, it's an interesting pattern by all means. And this is the latest on the snow cover. You see the new fresh snow we have in the Ohio Valley, but a good chunk of the northern 48 here does have quite a bit of snow to talk about. So nothing extreme, but pretty much what you expect really in January. Now, what I've done is I've taken the water equivalent and shown this for the snow from this morning. That's the best way to pinpoint some of the heavier squalls that we had that moved through. Now, I know there were a lot of factors in that snow forecast. The timing was one. Last night, if you watched 11, we adjust the timing, and so there will be two rounds, 8 a.m., the last round at 11 a.m. And that indeed is exactly what happened, almost to the hour. It's kind of scary. The next thing we adjust was the temperature profile. We see there'll be an upward motion and then a drop. The drop never really happened. Once the snow picked up, the airport dropped to 33. I dropped to 31 at my house, but the drop wasn't really that significant. Now, what that did is that created a very wet snow scenario, and it was interesting because once you go up in Louisville, over our heads or over the wave country area, the apparent ability here to get this moisture equivalent, I mean, this is very light moisture, but we still were able to squeeze out 1.5 inches to 2 inches in spots. I measured 1.5 at my house. In order to do that, that tells us there were high snow ratios. Now, that's odd because you're thinking, okay, well, we were 32, 33 degrees. That should be 10 to 1. We should see about 1/10 of an inch of rain, if not 2/10 of an inch of rain over this area. So how did that happen? Well, it's because the atmosphere, once you go up, the dew point was quite low. Once you go up, it was cold quickly. Now, we do not launch weather balloons in the Louisville area. We launch them in Ohio and down to the south here in Nashville. We do not launch them in our area. So the models estimate what the temperature was aloft, but we really don't have for sure data on how cold we were exactly aloft. They can get that data from airplanes that land at Louisville International Airport. We do not have access to that. The Weather Service does. But they were able to determine that the snow ratios were about 26 to 1, which is tremendous. But given the dew point being as low as it was and how dynamic the system was, the convective nature to be able to allow these cumulus clouds to really tap into the strong winds, for one, and secondly, to be able to punch that very cold layer in the atmosphere is very unique, very rare setup for thunderstorms with snow. You don't get that very often, but that tells us that you can squeeze out a ratio that high, even though the surface is about a 10 to 1, right at 32, 33 degrees. Very interesting setup, very unique, something I have not witnessed before in our area. Having said that, this is where the heavier snow bands ended up developing. The southern areas, you guys, nothing. You may have like a brief flurry, if anything, and that was it. So, and when in grading myself, because I like to grade myself and keep myself accountable, the forecast, 11 o'clock last night, I had the heavier snow band. I knew there was going to be a heavier snow band. What I could not figure out is where that was going to be. The models were all over the place. Some had it up here to the north, some had it across Indiana, and some had it way down here to the south, over E-Town. And then last night around midnight, they started to focus along this exact area. Of course, they're that close to the event, they're going to start to narrow in on the exact path. So it was kind of a guessing game there for a while. It was tough, but we knew the best forcing was going to be mainly north. So I ignored all the southern solutions and went with the northern idea and the 11 o'clock news. That worked out, but I didn't have it exactly placed right. I should have placed a little more northwest of Louisville all the way through Frankfort. Should have dropped that down to about I-64 at a slant. And I should have shaved off the inch or less and dusting, really, because it was a sharp cutoff, guys. I mean, the dry air was really taking over. Once you go south of Bullitt County, you got nothing really out of this. So it was a challenging forecast, but a unique one. Not a big event. We didn't expect the snow to be a big event, although that's what everybody talked about. It was just that it was going to be at a bad time. And last night, when we knew the timing was going to be pushed back, we knew then that it was looking better anyway for school systems to make a decision, but we don't make the decisions. That's up to them. Anyway, enough of that. Let's move on. All right, snowpack, if you got an inch or more, that's going to affect the temperatures overnight tonight. We're 20 right now. We've had some gusty winds at times today. The winds are relaxing, but when you have wind and clear skies in a snowpack, the thermometer will fall, but not crash. Once the wind relaxes, then you get good radiational cooling, then the thermometer will drop. In some cases, it could drop 3 degrees, if not more, in 1 hour. We are expecting that drop to really take place closer to sunrise. So we're 20 now. We will likely drop another 10 degrees between now and sunrise here in Louisville. That means for those of you in Seymour, if you drop another 10 degrees, you're talking about 0. At the moment, the winds are about 8 miles per hour sustained. It doesn't seem like a lot of wind, but it is beginning to relax, and we'll see that trend continue as the storm moves away. So current wind chill at the moment, it's 2 below is what it feels like in Seymour, 10 above in Louisville. At least the winds won't be strong enough where the wind chill is going to be off the chain, but 0 or just below will be a factor tomorrow morning. Here is the RPM model for tonight. It's saying about 14, 15 for Louisville and about 11 in Seymour. Well, it's already got Seymour wrong, so it's too warm along the north of 64. And I looked at the triple R model for later on tonight, and it's likely too cold. It's got 1 below in Shelbyville and 2 below in E-Town and 0 in Louisville. While it's warmer in Seymour than it is in E-Town, that doesn't make sense. So the rapid refresh isn't doing great, so I'm going to have to do a blend of both and kind of just nowcast it myself, and that's why you'll see those numbers come up at 11. All right, so tomorrow, we got some sunshine that'll break out early in the day, but then we have this little weak system that's going to pass through the Great Lakes. Yeah, it spreads clouds over us, so clouds will move in the afternoon. At this point, we're not going to put any snow in the forecast for those of you north of Louisville. But stay tuned. It would surprise me that we may have to add in some flurries for northern counties if the system grazes that area. So just a heads up there on that. Meanwhile, we get ready for the weekend. Here's our next low pressure moving in. It's 2 areas of low pressure, one in the south, one north. Starts as rain, then goes to snow Friday night into Saturday. In fact, here's the models. Again, to explain this, GFS, Euro, and here's the Canadian on the runs that change every few hours. These are the ones that kind of stabilize it. So you want to see a good agreement on the bottom row to help you verify the top row. And right now, there's good agreement that Friday, it's going to be warm enough that this is going to be rain. Then as we head into Saturday morning, it begins to phase. The 2 lows do. Finally, in the northeast, the cold air comes in, changes to snow. Models look good on the operational side, and then ensembles match pretty good, so confidence is growing there. And then here's the coldest period. Another cold front moves in Sunday night and Monday. It'll squeeze out more snow showers, maybe some snow squalls. We'll watch that for Monday. But this is the coldest area. It's not as cold as it was yesterday, but it is better agreement that it's going to get cold. So I'm still going to think one day in the teens, but I may have to push it into the 20s for Monday, but either way, it's looking cold. Here's the European longer range. It shows, by the way, temperatures tomorrow, they'll climb just above freezing, and then we'll actually climb all the way perhaps to about 40 degrees when you wake up in the morning. Thursday morning, we'll climb into the 50s, and then we'll begin to drop with that rain system, and here comes that cold Arctic air moving in. And again, the Euro is saying highs in the teens for about Sunday and Monday before we begin to warm back up. With our next system that moves in, this is another low, very similar. We warm up ahead of it, and then when it passes by, this looks familiar, doesn't it? It looks identical to this weekend. It goes to snow on the backside. I did check the latest on El Nino's update here. I checked the SSTs, the water temperatures. Look how warm they are. Way warmer than last year in the eastern seaboard. And that looks to be pumping up a ridge over the Atlantic and over the Pacific. So you get that split flow and the cold air keeps coming down. And so if this locks in, this could be very interesting in January and February. El Nino's beginning to fade. So we're seeing that drop take place. The longer range here, look at the Arctic Oscillation. The latest run, it was trying to go positive, but now it's trying to keep it negative, saying that we may stay with the cold air. And just for fun, here's a CFS model for snow all the way through now through February. Notice these little streaks, these little arcs. showing a path of snow that'll move through Kentucky, and another one across the southeast, but showing quite a bit of snow. And even the Euro is hinting at quite a bit of snow through the end of February, but it's got those little streaks. And that's what I have painted in here for midwinter from the forecast on Halloween. The heaviest snow will likely fall just north of Louisville. We'll see how it plays out, but that's the way it's looking right now. But the pattern looks very locked and loaded and busy all the way through February.